to the Word of Faith Hour, and tonight we've got the Family Life Ministries. We are going to talk to you about many things that's very important. But before we do that, would you please be so kind and just invite your friends right now to join us? And while we are trying to send out links, because the links are appearing on Facebook, go to the Word of Faith Christian Center Facebook page right now and let's share. Come on, let's everybody get onto our phones and share and get as many people to join us as possible so that we can invite people to join us and hear what Family Life will be talking about tonight. It's a very interesting topic that we are talking about tonight because we are actually going to talk about grief share, the pain, the loss, and we're going to cover the topic called life after loss. Now, you all know that now in the season that we are living in, there's been so many people that's losing their loved ones, and we are just trusting that you are not one of them. But if you are, will you please be so kind and just quickly share, everybody, share the link. The link is appearing now on our Facebook page. Can you just share? And also on Facebook, go and invite your friends. I'm doing that. I'm going to invite friends. But while I'm going to invite friends, I'm going to introduce you to our two guests tonight. We've got Marlene Jones. Marlene is the lady that actually presents the course called Life After Loss, a wonderful, fantastic support group course. Won't you just greet the people, Marlene?
Good evening. It's wonderful to be able to be part of something that is so needed in our life and in everybody's life today. And grieving is one of the greatest losses that we have, that we go through. And just being available to help people, that is what I would love to do. Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you. That's wonderful because the course that you present has been running for a number of years. How many years have you been doing it?
Well, this course has been running since 2000, and I've been doing it now, I think, for the past 11 years.
Yeah, that's a long time. You've had many people coming through that course when you presented it, and people that are that lost their loved ones, but others have lost animals. Tell me about that.
We had one lady which phoned us to speak to us and just wanted help, and she was crying and she was really deeply, deep in pain and everything. And she said, but I haven't lost a loved one, but I've lost my puppy because I've had him for so many years after my husband died. And that was so sad because we thought it was funny for a moment, but realizing that, even a puppy or a cat or even a horse for that matter, that's been your friend for so long, it's brought comfort to you. And now that pet is not there anymore. So we did help her, and she was very grateful for that.
Yeah, I think that we don't realize that we all grieve differently for different reasons. Yes. Marlene, we're going to come back to you. Let me introduce you to the next guest, and that is Elena Cullis. Now, Elena has walked a long road with Cleft Friends and with Smile Foundation, and she's experienced a different kind of pain depending on the situation. Elena, greet the people.
Hello, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you, Marianne, for the invitation. My journey's been different, yet I've experienced loss in many different ways when I sit down and think about it, and we'll hear about that today. But with Cleft Friends, my eldest was born with a cleft palate, and I felt a lot of loss and grief through that experience, being able to now help other parents around the country. So I had the loss of being able to breastfeed him, or the loss of people coming in and not saying, oh, congratulations. Instead they were saying, what's wrong, what happened? And trauma and loss comes in a lot of different sizes and forms. And of late, this year I've recently taken over, and we're starting a burn survivor support group that we'll be launching in the new year. And that's also bringing in a whole nother aspect of loss where, if a child is burnt or a person is burnt, maybe they lose a limb or they lose a life or they lose a loved one. And I think the more I live, the more I realize the only constant in life is change. And if more people can understand the healing process, and that there is life after loss, and that you may feel like not living without that person, or how did this perfect life I have, shatter? What happened, and what is normal? And this topic is huge, and more than anything, Marianne, you know me, and I just want people to speak life, and I want them to live fully, because life is awesome.
Well, the sad part of losing a loved one is that we somehow think we're all going to live forever. And thinking that we're going to live forever, when death comes, it is such a change in your whole plan. And it's almost like you are out of control. You've got no idea what to do with the rest. And so when we go through all that, we have to battle through emotions, different kinds of emotions. But before we continue, I just want to ask everybody to please be so kind and just keep on sharing. Share with your friends. Come on, let's invite more people to join us. I know people thought that the president would be speaking at 8, but it's not. He's only going to speak tomorrow night, I believe. He has changed his mind, and may he not close our beaches, because that's going to cause some serious problems. That will be a real loss over the Christmas period for many people. But let's talk about, we have some experiences ourselves that we have gone through, and seasons that we have lost loved ones. If I just think about Marlene, you have lost your husband. How did it feel when your life was just taken and you were separated from your husband like that?
You know, Marianne, for me it was a process, because my husband was diagnosed with cancer, and it was melanoma cancer, which is fast spreading. So there was, in actual fact, no hope for him. But so I was in the process of grieving already, quite honestly, for about a year before he passed away. But still, when it happened, the morning when he passed, he asked me to go to the shop. He asked me to go and buy him some soda water, which he wanted, and he felt like it. And he said, I'm going to just get up this morning and walk around, because I've got to build up my strength to go for that operation next week. And of course, he passed away. When I came back, I found him in our room, and he had passed away. And the soda water was there, but he never had the opportunity to drink it. So that to me was quite a shock, to find him there dead, and not, coming back, finding him wanting to get the soda water that he so wanted. So that was quite something for me to work through. Your sound is off.
Did you find yourself regretting the fact that you weren't there when he died?
Oh, yes. You know what? I felt so guilty, because now, because he was like in front of the bed, he must have gotten up, so he couldn't make it back into the bed, but he was right in front of the bed. So now I'm trying to find, okay, now, first of all, before that, even his favorite dog, the German Shepherd, I let him come in to go and find Alan and everything. So then again, I quickly had to get the dog out, because I saw Alan lying on the floor. And then getting the dog out, running back, trying to find and see if he was alive. Felt his pulse, looked at his eyes, phoned the doctor in the same time. And the doctor said, okay, I am coming right now. Now, my thing is also, now I said to the doctor when he came, I said, if I didn't go to the shop, I would have been able to help him. The doctor said to me, there was no way that you would have been able to help him. So that released me of that guilt that I was feeling. And that was at first, it was hard for me to accept that. I thought, had I been there, I could have done something. And you always tend to blame yourself for that purpose, that you didn't do enough. So now you start questioning yourself, have I done enough in that period of time? Have I given my best? But God had given me such peace that he said to me that you have given everything that you could. But that's also the walk with God again that gave me peace like that, because had I not served the Lord, I don't know where I would have been.
But now, I just want to ask everybody that's on the Facebook and YouTube, can you please continue to share the link? Ask your friends to come in, because this is important information. We all will go through loss, and the problem is that nothing is guaranteed. And if we if we go through this what we're presenting tonight, we're going to open our hearts and explain to you what we had to deal with. But at the same time, you will learn that there's some amazing facts around about this, and just maybe you're one of the people that need to be really loved through this. Okay, well, let's just listen to Elena for a minute. Elena, explain to us what happened with the cleft of your child and that whole sense that you went through.
Mariana, I'll mention that briefly, but I also want to mention the loss of my gran last year. It's actually been a year since she's passed away. I think with much has happened since then. I've overcome that a long time ago, and we were able to overcome that. But if I have to talk about that in a nutshell, when the pediatrician came to the maternity ward, the day he was born, it was about 5 minutes before visiting hours, and he said, Mrs. Cullis, I want to tell you that your baby is perfect, but, and then he paused and he said, we need your permission to feed him. He's got a cleft palate, and they're able to fix this in plastics. And in that time I thought, no, sorry, you've made a mistake. I'm supposed to be, you're supposed to be speaking to the lady in the bed next to me. It was a genuine sense of denial. There was no way of going around it, and it was an honest emotion. And then I went through phases, like Marlene mentioned, with her husband, of blaming myself, thinking, what did I do wrong? Did I take something wrong in pregnancy? How did this happen? I blamed myself. I was angry. And you go through the phases of grief that we'll be speaking about today, bargaining, sadness, and then you find a place where you're like, okay, how do I move forward? And you start searching and finding meaning through this loss, and to get to acceptance. And so that really is in a nutshell how we got to even just starting something like Cleft Friends, which is now, branching across the country. But if I've got to speak about my gran, and I feel like it's the most recent loss, if that's, obviously other than Pastor Jimmy, that's our very most, recent big loss at the moment. I just felt that my gran was 96 in 2 days when she passed away. And I think you mentioned earlier, sometimes we, like Marlene said, you have preparation where this person's going to pass away, and you can almost start grieving before the time. And preparing, and then you get losses where suddenly, whoops, you think this person's going to live forever, and the next minute you're at their funeral. I mean, we mentioned that in this week. We thought Pastor Jimmy's going to live forever. How's this possible? How's this actually happening? How are we actually here? And I just felt that, if I'm speaking about my granny specifically, I felt that people didn't speak about the facts clearly at the time. That words were used that were like, they were trying to keep us happy and not upset us or make us upset. And when somebody I spoke to them and they told me straight up, her organs are failing, we don't know when it's going to be, it gave me clarity to make my plans to get plane and get to Witbank where she was. And, in that time, the flight was delayed by 2 hours. And as I drove into Witbank, we got the message that she had passed away. So had that flight not been delayed, I would have been able to see her. But at the same time, I walked into a situation that I didn't plan. I didn't know what was coming. I walked into a situation where we were waiting for the coroner to arrive, where I had helped take her out the house, where there were family members there, and everybody just processing it in their own ways. And me being I immediately just
Okay, it seems like Elena is breaking right now.
back.
Are you there, Elena?
Sorry.
Yeah, you're back now. Can we hear you? Can you hear us? All right. Marlene,
I'm so sorry. I can hear you. I don't.
Am I the only one where it's breaking? Doesn't
Can you
matter.
hear me?
Let's quickly see what what they're saying. But so continue, Elena. We hear you better now.
Sorry, I can hear. Sorry. So I immediately get into like, what can I do mode? And Marianne, that's where we were talking this week, and we share that, like, okay, I can make tea. Who wants tea? And off I had to do something to just feel like, because you don't know what to do. So you just make lots of cups of tea. And I know it was hard just thinking of the practical things. Nobody can prepare you for that, for driving around to the, you know, the church of the day afterwards to plan the service, or the, you know, the what do you call it, the burial home, and just dealing with the paperwork can be so draining that you forget about yourself. You forget that you actually need to be drinking water. You actually need to be eating. You actually need to take a shower. And so I think one of the things that help us to get through these overwhelming stages of finding life after loss is almost holding on to your self-care with both hands and just going back to the basics and doing the simple. So, yeah.
You know, just hearing that, and we're going to touch on that. What must happen after a death? We are going to talk about that. But just share my story is that just today, my niece's husband died, and this morning at 1:00, and lately we've been experiencing a number of deaths. But I think the most devastating, and this is what Elena said earlier on, and Marlene even, you know, nobody prepares one for death. In fact, we don't live life thinking that we're going to bury somebody, or we're going to die, or somebody else is going to die. We don't live life like that. And often when somebody in your family dies and you're the responsible people, we don't have the funds, we're not prepared, we don't know what to do with anything, and we really need people to help us through it. And I remember when many years ago, it was like 41 years ago, my eldest daughter was killed in front of our house by the bus that brought her home from school. Now, it was a very tragic situation, but I remember that I was sitting in a room a week later, and very interesting, she always used to gather shells and stones, and the room was stinking, and I was wondering what on earth was here. And there I found this fraught little heap of shells that still had things inside of them. And it was so wonderful because I could actually laugh and say to her, Jackie, you've messed up again, as if she was there. And those things actually helps a person to continue in life. But it's never good for your emotions. Your emotions go through turmoil. Marlene, what are the steps of emotional pain that people go through when they lose a loved one? Marlene, you are Marlene. Just unmute yourself.
There I am. One of the main things that people have to watch out for is depression. You know, you can, after your loved one has passed away, and doesn't matter what circumstances that person passed on, you are feeling that loss, and you are like a lost sheep actually walking around, not knowing where to go, what to do, and, you know, preparing for that. And you got all these things, like Helena said, the arrangements at the church and the funeral parlor and all of those things. And then they want music from you. What was your, like, for instance, they asked me what was my husband's favorite music. He absolutely loved opera, operatic music. And Josh Groban and Andrea Patelli, that was the two songs we chose for him. And those type of things, you know, that you have to prepare for. And then it comes to the financial side. Now you've got to go and start doing banking details and paying accounts, things that I never did because my husband did everything for me. But by the grace of God, you know, a month before he passed, he sat me down and he said to me, come, let me tell you exactly what it is that you need to do now. And he took me through the steps of our life that I'm going to live after he's gone, which I am eternally grateful for. Not everybody's got that opportunity. One person that I definitely know of, when her husband passed, she did not even know the password to get into the computer to get to what to do, what she needs to do, which is really sad. So for my sake, from our side, I always say, husbands and wives, please be open about your business deals, your business side of your life. Let them know what is the passwords. Encourage one another to find out how to do the business, how to pay those accounts, because sometimes the wife is the person that does all the work and the husband doesn't know. So those are really important things. But, you know, the big thing I would say is to prevent getting into depression. Get occupied. Do something to keep yourself busy. Get busy. To me, the Lord said to me, get busy, and I got busy.
The other thing I feel, Elena, we're talking about is that people easily get overwhelmed. It's because, you know, suddenly, like Marlene just said, suddenly you don't know the banking details. You don't know the payments that needs to happen. Then they tell you need to go to a funeral parlor because you need a death certificate. My goodness, who trains a person to get a death certificate? You need to get a coffin. There's not enough money to do that. Then they ask you, when do you want the funeral? I haven't even thought about my spouse or my child or whatever dying, but I need to give a time and a date for a funeral. Then who am I telling to come to the funeral? All these things are just practical applications that happens right around death. And it's never nice. We don't want to talk about it, but it is so important to talk about these factors. And I love it. My mom has written out her full details of everything. The day she dies, in that drawer, you'll find that, in that drawer, that. You sing this at my funeral. This is the dominee that will bury me. This is where my coffin. You'll get my coffin. Everything is worked out to the T, even a nice amount of money for me for a beautiful dress. Which I think is brilliant, but we 99% of the time people don't think that. And often women or husbands, when this happens, suddenly discover there's a lot of debt they didn't know about, because these things happen. Accounts are frozen and you can't do anything. So Elena, what can we do to stop the absolute overwhelmed feeling?
Okay, Marianne, very advice. Are you ready for it? You do know I'm not a mental health professional. You do know that. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you now. Hopefully it all works. So, and let's share. Can you see my screen?
There you are. Yes, we can see your screen.
Ice cream.
So the best advice I have very often is just go have an ice cream. Because there are sometimes things that, and those who know me well in the Claire Friends circle, we often talk about ice cream moments where things are just too big for your brain to engage with right now. It's too overwhelming, and it's actually okay to just go have an ice cream. Go walk around the mall. You don't have to think about anything serious. Just have an ice cream. Okay, I'm going to go to the top of my slide now. I actually started with the bottom there. So things can be very overwhelming, Marlene and Marianne. Let me start again here. There we go. And often what we speak about is the grieving curve. And I've actually asked our one psychologist to watch this afterwards to check if I've managed to capture everything all right. So for those who are watching who are mental health professionals, please don't judge me. I'm just going to talk from my heart and how this really has made sense to me, especially in this year of 2020. So very often with loss or grief leaves us feeling helpless and alone. And that is what the overwhelming part you spoke about, Marianne. We just feel like we don't know what to do and what do we do next. And like I mentioned, you know, the first bit of news left me feeling in absolute shock and denial. And these are normal emotions. You know, God is an awesome God. He built these emotions inside of us. So when we feel anger or disappointment, or we blame ourselves, like Marlene also related to, we mustn't think these are bad feelings. God gave us these feelings. We are made in the image of God. What happens when we move through sadness, you know, it's important not to stay in sadness, but it's okay to have a sad moment, if that makes sense. You know, there might be some days where you're feeling fine and you're like, oh, what's everybody talking about, this grieving curve? I'm fine. And then the next minute something happens. You know, just this week, I received an email about some outstanding amount of whatever I'd been paying, and usually I would have been fine. I'm like, we've done this before, we can do it again, it's not a big deal. But this just totally, it's like it rocked my boat and I just burst into tears. And now anybody who would know me would think, but Helena, you've done this, you can do this. This is not something you haven't done before. But in actual fact, I know it was a lot of grief coming up from other things that we've lost. You know, Pastor Jimmy passing away, my dear friend Andeline Salverson passing away, all these things I know because I understand the grieving curve. I don't turn around and start shouting at my husband or my children and saying, ah. What I did was I said, I need a moment. And I walked to the bedroom and I had a good cry. But I'm not stuck in the bedroom, if that makes sense. I had that moment and I was able to move out of sadness, you know, exploring, searching. And I find, I like, Marlene, what you said with getting busy and with creating. Very often people find meaning in the loss when they start to create something. Maybe it's a quilt, maybe it's a scarf, maybe it's a painting, maybe it's something that you're creating that can help you through your grief and also find meaning. I know that with what we experienced with Joel's cleft palate, you know, Cleft Friends was a huge important part of our journey in finding meaning with, why did this happen to us? You know, this helps us help other families. And so eventually with finding acceptance to be able to be going plain sailing again. And very often it's like Lynette always says, she's our psychologist for Cleft Friends, she says it's like a ship that's hit, like the Titanic, that's hit an iceberg and suddenly everything crashes and you go through this curve and you're able to work through these steps. Now, what I feel has happened this year is that this looks quite manageable, to be honest. If I look at this looks clean, this looks, okay, I can do this. But then, you know, maybe this slide represents a colleague at work that got COVID and passed away. And you are processing this one person's loss. And you're like, okay, I get it. I can do this. But then 2020 happens. And it's not just your colleague's loss that you're processing. You've now been retrenched as well. So now you're starting your whole in your process of grief with their loss, but now you've started with the shock and denial because you now don't know where your income's going to come from. I'm talking hypothetically here. And then you're like, okay, 2-3 weeks down the time, you're like, okay, I think I'm finding my feet. And then 2020 hits and your dog dies, you know, and you're finding yourself in a bigger mess because it's all just getting so overwhelming. Like you said, Marianne, it's just been an overwhelming year. And then the next minute, there's just like these tornadoes going on around you. And you're like, I can't cope. I can't do this. And you are feeling extremely overwhelming. You feel like maybe you can't carry on living. It's better if I just end my life. What meaning is there in life? I can't live. This is too much going on. And I know that very often all these losses will cause what they call PTSD, post-trauma. I've got it wrong here, haven't I? What is it called? Post-trauma.
Something there is.
Yeah. Clearly, I'm not the mental health professional.
It's post-trauma depression syndrome.
Okay. let's get someone to comment and help us who's more knowledgeable there. But what I feel is that this is just like you're in the middle of a storm. There's tornadoes coming at you left, right, and center, and you have to find a way to rebuild your ship. Like Lynette says, the ship has shattered. You've never built a ship before. Marianne, if I want to build a ship, I'm not going to go to the dressmaker. I'm not going to go to a heart surgeon. If I want to build a ship, I'm going to go to somebody that builds ships. That makes sense, right?
Amen. Yeah.
So there are three simple things that have helped. It has helped me, and I really, from the bottom of my heart, I hope that this message goes far and wide, that it'll help others out there. Number one, you need a plan. What is that plan going to be? Maybe if you're taking one day at a time, what is my plan for today? Maybe you're feeling so dead inside and heavy that you can't get out of your bed. What is my plan for today? My plan right now is to put my feet down on the floor. I can't get up past that. What do I do next? Okay, I sit up. What do I do next? My plan is to brush my teeth. Something simple, depending on how you're feeling. Take one day at a time. Then find support. Support is important. This is where Grief Share comes in a huge role, where the counseling at church comes in a huge role, where Family Life Ministries, where your Connect group, where people who have gone through what you're going through in a healthy way can get around you and support you through it. You know, you're going to look for the people. You know, if I was looking for support with Joel's cleft palate, I wasn't going to go to a support center for another medical condition. I was going to look for cleft lip and palate support. If I'm going through the grief, I'm going to look for support at grief, at our loss course. And time. Like Lynette says, if you try and fast, it's going to crash because you haven't taken time to build it strong and steady so that you can sail again. So don't try and do anything fast. Take your time and have lots of ice cream. That's my story, sweet and short.
That's very interesting. So that helps a lot. Marlene, if you really look at that, I just see that Elise Botha posted, Pastor Elise Botha, she posted on the Facebook page, and maybe you want to quickly send us your practical tips on how you went through that absolute overwhelmed season. And it's normally, Marlene, how long is that season? Is it about 6 months, or is it 2 years, or is it 2 months?
That all depends on the person, how the person, how strong character or personality the person is. For me, it was, I would say, about a year that I worked through everything. And, I wasn't in a deep depression or a deep grieving process after Alan's loss, because I've been through it before. And I would say, anything from 6 months to a year. And then I would also say, after your first year, don't make any big decisions in that first year after loss.
So maybe it's, I see, Elena, it's called post-traumatic stress disorder. You've got it now. Thank you so much.
Sorry, if I can also add there that, a grieving curve is not linear, where we understand 1, 2, 3, now you're finished. A grieving curve can bounce backwards and forwards. So one day you're in denial, the next minute you're searching for meaning. There's no straight line. And at different phases, different times, some people process it in 2 weeks, some people process it, like Marlene said, a year. Everybody is different. And I think this is where finding ourselves in 20 need to just be kind.
So maybe I can just ask the people that are watching us, please keep on sharing. But would you also do me a favor, if you've gone through loss, will you please quickly type into the conversation section there, what did you do to keep yourself afloat. What was the practical tips that you used? I know that Elise Botha said now you need to keep a folder of everything so that when people come to your house, or like in Pastor Mariana, this is the most interesting thing. When before Pastor Jimmy died, would you know, about 2-3 weeks before he died, she insisted that she wants all the documents in one folder. And she started searching for all the documents, put it in a folder. That Sunday morning when he died, she took the folder and she gave it to Richard just like that. How clever was that? And it's such a great help. So what are your practical tips that you can give the rest of us and saying, do this, do that, or what? So let's see some of the tips that's coming through from people saying what we should do and how we can actually make us less overwhelmed. Because isn't it so? When you don't know what you're doing, you become overwhelmed. And death has never been a planned situation where we go through so many things there. And I see there's somebody saying there, let me just quickly see, I have a situation that my phone keeps on running away with me. Oh, goodness me. I can't see it now. Well, so just while we're waiting for people to post, please post what would be the most typical or the most practical points that you can take on. Now, the question is here really, what do I live for now? And I think sometimes when death comes in any form, or even like Elena, you mentioned when you lose your job, or remember those big fires we had once at Teescombe, and that beautiful grass roof house burned down, and what do I live for now? It's like you don't have anything to live for now. So how do I take a hold of my life and just, in spite of my mourning season, have a purpose? So I know, Marlene, you have a wonderful course that you are presenting, and it's called Life After Loss. And people can get
after loss.
Last year, people can get hold of you and they can really help you there, or they can really get onto, because one of the things that Elena mentioned is how to take charge of your life. Don't sit there and think it's the end of your life. Get involved in something. So Marlene, what is important about that course that you are presenting, Life After Loss?
You know, that I would say that it would be a thought that, you know, it might be depressing going through loss. But the honesty of all of it is that you are not alone in all of this. There are people that can help. There are people that will listen. You sometimes even say when you talk to somebody, you don't want to listen to all my nagging and going on and telling you the same story over and over. But you know what? There are some people that are prepared to listen and to actually even just sit quietly and hear what you have to say. And then if there's advice to be given, to give that advice. So that is... Yeah.
So these are the topics that you actually handle, because one of the things we are going to talk about a little bit later, and that is how do you sympathize with somebody that's just gone through loss? Is that one of the topics as well?
That is also one of the topics. Yes, it's just, you know, your lessons in grieving, how to deal with it and how to go through it and everything. And you know, and then there's heaven, and how do I live now? Yeah.
I see here, Madge Blichnout writes, she says, take one day at a time. I really think that must probably get up, like you said, Helena, put your feet down on the floor, go for a shower and take one day at a time.
Yeah.
And then she also says, don't make big decisions. And then I think one of you said that also, go and ask for help. I think that's one of the biggest things. We sometimes tend to be so private, but when these things come your way, you actually need people, and nobody can just function. And here I see Jacqueline Enslin says, when I feel like that, she says, I start to sing praise and worship songs. And I just write my heart out on a piece of paper and talk to God. That's a wonderful way of dealing with the absolute, because it's so anxious. You can be so anxious and so overwhelmed. So Marlene, we've got the course running, but we will be doing the course in the new year. So we will be advertising Life After Loss again. But if you really think of that, what do I have to live for now? Helena, what do you say on that? What do I have to live for now?
You know, Marianne, I think that I was really inspired by Pastor Jeffrey Crompton this morning when he ministered, and he spoke about, you know, loss, and something he said, I think it was when his daughter had passed away. He said, you know, he was before the Lord on his knees and he said, this is really hard, God, and I don't understand, but I'm going to worship you anyway. And I think that there is a lot of power in gratitude, about just finding things to be grateful for, even if it's the sun that's shining or the bed that you have, to just find things to be grateful for and to surround yourself with them and remind yourself of them. And Marlene mentioned listening. I think that if you're there for those around you, if we can just empower people who are supporting those who are going through grief and loss, that there's power in just being able to listen. You don't have to fix their problems. You don't have to talk all the time and tell them what to do. You can actually just listen, and that really is powerful. And I think that's for me. I know it was actually Andeline's daughter, Annalie, and I don't mind posting the link later. She gave me this great day protocol. Can I share it with you, Marianne?
Just before you do, I just want to give the Word of Faith cell phone number in case you really need prayer and you need help, because there's a lot of people that really would like to help you. We want to pray with you. We want to help you. We want to support you. We want to show you where to go to if you need a death certificate, or how to go about attorneys, because sometimes you need attorneys. The telephone number is, and it's a WhatsApp. You can just send us a WhatsApp to 067 003 5623, and I'm saying the number again, 067 003 5623. That phone is manned 24 hours. Please send us your WhatsApp. Let's hear what we can do for you, because I honestly think that we are here and we're saying we want to reach out, and Marlene would definitely phone you and talk to you, and so will Elena. We want to help you, and we know that it's not a nice thing, and we know that the death of a loved one, or the loss, any kind of loss, is an emotional battle, because you have to fight with yourself, and it's very important. And just before you read us those scriptures, let's quickly go through, Marlene, what's the difference between empathy and sympathy? Because people don't know what to say when somebody's lost a loved one.
You know, that is very true, because in the beginning, before I had my loss, I would actually stand with a mouth full of teeth and not know how to sympathize. And it's so sad, because a lot of people are saying, I am so sorry for your loss. But are you there afterwards? That is, you know, for me, the sympathy and the empathy is both, for me, to be there after the loss and to be with that person, and to, you know, even like I said before, not to talk a lot and not to give advice, but pick up the cups, sweep the floor, even wash the dishes, or make a meal, just to be there, because of that first week after loss, everybody disappears. And that is, for me, the biggest when it comes to sympathy.
And I see that Charlene is writing here. She says, it's important that you also go into your season of mourning. Isn't that one of the scriptures you've got here, Elena? Yeah. For everything, there is a season. So don't act brave. Yeah. There is a time for crying. There's a time to sit and scream your heart out. But that season must go over. Because sometimes we find people pick up that mourning for the rest of their lives. But you need to let go of mourning after a season. But go into your cry when you need to cry. And that's why you join people that will understand you. Elena, give us those scriptures that you've got.
Thank you. Before I do that, Marianne, I just want to clarify the difference between empathy and sympathy. Empathy is feeling with the person, putting yourself in their shoes. And sympathy is feeling sorry for the person. Usually you will cry or get upset with the person, and this doesn't really help the person. And I know that can be quite tricky when you're supporting somebody and you feel like your walls are crashing. Are you now going to break down in front of them? Are they now going to be consoling you, or should you be the one that's being strong for them? And so there's so many unspoken, boundaries that we're suddenly faced with. And how do we cope with that?
Okay, Leila, I just had a lot of responses coming through now. Charlene also says that to be anxious makes things worse, but we need to be thankful for every day. That's what you said. But then Harry, Bonnie, McCarthy, they says take one day at a time. We keep on saying that if that is too long, take 5 minutes at a time. Don't make any big decisions again. When you're down and out, keep praising the Lord. Jesus does carry you. Start looking for the small things to be thankful for. And I really think that is very, very good and powerful things. And somebody says, Catherine Botha says, it's okay not to be okay, but then again, you're not alone. And it's always, somehow we think what I'm going through. So I'm the unique person, the only one on the planet that's going through what I'm going through now. But it's not true. There are people like you in different phases of life, mourning for different reasons, taking different times, feeling the pain in a different way. And we need to really be there. Let me just repeat the number. The number is on the chat group, on the Word of Faith chat group, but let me give it to you again. It's 067 003 5623. Please, I'm going to repeat it. Please send us your WhatsApp. Let us know. And also give us more responses of how did you cope? How do you think is the best way to cope? And whether you think fighting it alone is a bad or a good idea. Okay, Elena, give us those scriptures.
Okay, let's do it. And I think, Marianne, these scriptures really, to me, are a great way for us as the church, as believers, to model courage and hope to those around us, by just finding out what is hidden in your heart. Because ultimately, when you go through grief or loss or trauma, that's what's going to come out. And so these affirmations, thanks to Anne with these afterwards, so they're able and balanced. I'm full of courage and confidence. And then I declare, I'm strong and courageous. It is the Lord my God who goes with me. He will not leave me nor forsake me. That's Deuteronomy 31, verse 6. The second affirmation is, I'm full of optimism. My heart is joyful. And I declare, the joy of the Lord is my strength. Nehemiah 8, verse 10. The third one is, I am in harmony with the flow of life. I have unconditional love for those around me. And I declare, and above all these, I put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. Colossians 3, verse 13. And then the last affirmation is, I am safe and protected. I interact with those around me appropriately, and I take in all the good and none of the bad. And I declare, Ephesians 6, verse 10 to 11, I am strong in the Lord and his mighty power, and I put on the full armor of God.
Well, the thing is, if we praise the Lord, and I like that, Elena, maybe somebody would like you to just post it on the group that people can see it. I'm just thinking, Marlene and Elena, the scripture in Psalms 23, it says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because you are with me. And I remember what Pastor Mariana said the morning Pastor Jimmy died. She said, suddenly, when he left this earth, suddenly peace moved into the room. And she suddenly knew that he was lying next to her on the bed. She was under the same blanket as him. But there was no fear. There was no pain. There was no confusion. It was the peace of God that passes all understanding that filled the room. And I think sometimes we need to find what God wants to do in the situation. We cannot hold on to life, but we can hold on to our lives while we're here and do the best we can in what we are doing. So please, you've seen the number. If you can just send us your WhatsApp, if you need any prayer, any help of any kind, we would love to help you. We really care for people. So Life After Loss is a definite program that's running in the new year, because we are all having a bit of a break. And I know people that are losing loved ones right now. Like we lost a loved one this morning. Somehow you want to camp there, but that's not the place to camp. because there are people around you that's still alive. And yes, we must go in our mourning, and yes, we must go into our tears, but we must remember around us there are people that are still alive, and they need us and we need them. So I think what you said earlier on, be practical, make a nice cup of warm coffee, go for a walk with the dog, hug your spouse, hug your children, and just be there for each other. And I think one of the best things that's happening when there's death all around us, suddenly we see clearer. Suddenly we understand clearer. Suddenly we realize we have to appreciate each other, because what we thought was important yesterday is not that important today. And I think 2020 taught us that what was important is not so important anymore. Well, a last word from you, Marlene, please.
Can I just close you with a scripture where it said that peace and pain coexist, and that is in let me just get it here, John 16 verse 33. It says, "I have told you these things that in me you may have peace. In the world you have trouble and suffering, but take courage. I have conquered the world."
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Elena.
You know, and we've got to keep our eyes on the Lord.
We have to. Helena.
Marianne.
Don't hear you.
I think in ending, I just want people to know that life is beautiful and it's worth living, and that I know at Word of Faith we have amazing support structures, whether it's your Connect group, whether it's grief, you know, the Life After a Loss course, whether it's your counseling services, Marianne. I know that we all have camping chairs, and we can camp with you through your sadness, but those camping chairs will be packed away, and we will help you and empower you to get back on, and your ship will sail again. Even though you may not be able to see how right now, just remember there's 3 simple things. You need a plan, you need support, and you need time. Don't underestimate time. We live in an instant world. We want everything fixed now because we've just become so comfortable. Time is a very important ingredient to healing, and enjoy lots of ice cream.
Well, I like that. I like what you just said. At Word of Faith, we will really go for you. We will help you. But please, we also have Connect groups that will be starting up in the new year. Send us a WhatsApp to that number. Say on the WhatsApp, I need to be connected. That's all you need. We will do the rest. We will connect you with the right people. We want you to stay connected in this season. Do not go, you know what, somehow we mustn't go through pain alone. Nobody's made to go through pain, any kind of pain alone. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are, whether you're going through a divorce, whether you lost your spouse or is dead, your dog, or whether you lost your job, whether your husband, doesn't matter what. Pain is not meant to be suffered alone. Jesus had people on the cross that he was there. When he was on the cross, he was looking down on the people. So it's very important that you're not alone in what you are going through. Well, we really enjoyed this tonight. Thank you for watching Family Life Ministries of Word of Faith. Thank you to a wonderful 2 ladies, Marlene and Helena. I think tonight was really brilliant. After this, please continue sharing this. Share it with your friends that had a loss. Let them hear the good tips. There are some brilliant tips, and we want to help. We want to help you. We want to make it easier for you. Of course, we cannot be you. We cannot be you, but we can walk alongside you. God bless you, and thank you very much for watching.
Amen.